and with the size of this dude and just the look, he had that look of just an asshole. So
just menacing, just monster guy. I mean, I think the guy's huge enough. I don't know about his acting chops because he didn't have too many lines, but he's definitely huge enough to replace Henry Cavill's Superman if Warner Brothers does actually do that. I don't know if that's official or not, but yeah, the guy's a monster. They establish as much, that this guy's a beast, and what the sleazy promoter comes out and he calls out basically, both Rocky and Creed to have this fight. Hey, this is what happened last time. Now we have his son, and they're trying to goad him into the fight. Dolph Lundgren's Ivan Drago goes to Rocky's restaurant and he confronts him and he sets up the storyline that he was ostracized and humiliated, and this fight is a chance for his redemption, so to speak. Which Rocky doesn't.
So right there was
about,
my first piece of cheese. Was this dude sits there in this restaurant, which obviously is not doing very well for business because there's like nobody in this restaurant called Adrian's, and Rocky shows up and he sees Ivan and he's not even like surprised. He's like, hey, like he's seen this guy. Okay, it's been 30 years is pretty much what they dictate in this whole conversation, and this guy Ivan pursues to tell him that he's been shunned from Russia and everything's been taken away from him since that fight, and everything has been destroyed for him for the last 30 years. So for 30 years, let's say he's now 50 something years old, your life has been that shitty that you've been holding on to this grudge for 30 years. I mean, seriously, that's why I always said, dude, seriously, I think you need something else. You need a hobby or something else to do, because for 30 years, you're going to tell me that everybody was like, that's it. That was the whole thing in Russia. That was the breaker for them. That was everything ended that day. The whole day Rocky beat Ivan in the ring. And so he's been holding on to this. So he's been grooming his kid, producing this offspring for that one day. One day he's been giving this kid and they show the training of this kid. He's like training within a brickyard and he's running and just total underground boxing type of environment. Yeah. And this kid's coming because he needs to avenge not only his father, but Russia. And he needs to get back into Russia's good grace. And this is going to do it. A fight, a one boxing match. Out of all the things in the world, missile crisis, economy, I think if the boxing thing goes well, Russia will be back on its feet and we'll get back into the swing of things and we'll get back on top of what we need to do. And that's the part where I was like, come on, seriously. I know where we're going with this theme, but I think that kind of put a little slice of cheese on there.
Yeah, I think when it's introduced, obviously this becomes the first of two fights, of course. So this becomes the first fight, which will take place in Vegas. Yeah, I don't know how else they could have really done that, Jester, to really get to this storyline. We all know that this somehow has to happen because it's in the trailers. This is what the movie's about. So I mean, I don't know if you could.
They could have just said, hey man. We got this Russian fighter who's looking for a bout. Not only that, but he just showed up, and then they just got like a news conference, and nobody knew about the news conference.
It becomes about Russia more so. I think at the first fight, it becomes basically a redemption type of. It's painted as a Drago type of, redemption fight. Like that's what he's trying to print. We killed your dad, so to speak. Come out and face us, you coward.
We killed your dad. We killed your dad in the ring, so we want to beat your ass up too.
Yeah.
So come on in.
We want money.
We want money.
We want money. We're going to call you out. This is how we do it, humiliating you in public. And it's a sleazy way to do it. It's admitted so much in the film and stuff. And of course, Creed, accepts a fight, much to Rocky's chagrin. Rocky won't do it, but much like, I believe we were talking about this before, the parallels to the previous Rocky, franchise films are definitely apparent in this film. So
this is Rocky 3. If anybody's out there want to know, this is how Rocky 3 got to Mr. T. Mr. T showed up. He started just harassing everybody. He was an underground fighter, totally hungry. He wanted to fight. Yeah. everybody was like, don't fight this guy. He looks like a beast, which is what Rocky, the Creed 2 character, looks like, a beast. And then everybody was against him. And of course, Creed's character was like, no one thinks I can beat him. Just like Rocky 3 when no one thought he could beat him. And then
you can't win, Rock.
He got into him when he went there and he started flirting with his wife, telling him he's going to bone her and he's going to get to her. And he's like, that's it. I'm going to fight this guy out of rage. That's what happened in Creed 2. That's what happened in this part of the scene. He fought this guy in rage. But instead of that dude winning, he had to do like a cheap shot, get disqualified. So there was a reason to have a rematch. That was the whole thing. So Rocky 3, the whole script was transferred into Creed 2. Again, that's exactly how it played out in Rocky 3.
Yeah, and just the championship doesn't change hands like it did in Rocky 3. With Rock's head not in the game and all that stuff. And the parallels there. It's like, Creed's head's not in the game. What is he fighting for? That's a theme throughout the film. Are you fighting for your dad or are you fighting for yourself? It's basically a theme, going throughout this film. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, we talking about this, before we went on the air here, a lot of this stuff is how do you get to this point? It rushes a lot of stuff. I mean, if you're looking at realism, he comes out of nowhere. He's doing a few underground fights and wherever in Croatia or whatever that is. And you got the same thing with Creed from the first one. He's doing underground fights in Mexico. Realistically, they try their best to try to paint a scenario where this could happen. I mean, I guess you kind of have to also believe that we're talking about like Creed is the equivalent of what would be Muhammad Ali's son fighting or, being trained by Rocky Marciano. So, I mean, you have to kind of use those chess pieces on the board, but these fighters coming out of nowhere, it's not realistically that you're going to get to that type of, elite level because you look at a lot of parallels in MMA, a lot of these guys try to, come in. It's been said about CM Punk, like we talk about in wrestling, just trying to become an MMA fighter, no matter how good your people are that are training you. It's not going to be the same unless you were bred for it, and you've been doing this. And that necessarily might not have been established. They kind of tried to do that with the Drago character. Like looks like he's been training him for a while for this. But has he been training him to just fight on a stage again, to just bring respect back to the Drago name? And then this little softball comes up, like, this is our chance. I mean, I guess that was inferred. They didn't really say, but yeah, like you said, if you break it down, it's like he's been training the son after their mom had quote unquote left to do this, and then this scenario happens to come up where the son of the guy he killed, is now world champion. Now I could come out of the woodworks and regain my respect. Yeah, I mean, it's a movie. You have to.
So again, he fights him though, and he pummels the shit out of him, and then
he hospitalizes.
They think that this is going to be, and then they basically break him down to the point of like he feels like he's not a boxer. He failed. All this stuff comes up. So then you start thinking that, this is when Rocky shows up again, like not Mickey in Rocky 3, but, the Apollo Creed character shows up. And this is when you kind of lose
that
touch.
might be, we maybe jumped a little too far. Duke agreed to train him, so he goes back, and the original guy, the guy who trained his dad, trains him for this one, but Rocky had refused to train him, so he fights Drago, he wins by DQ because of the cheap shot at the end, and then Rocky's watching this from his restaurant basement or whatever, kitchen or whatever, and he watches Creed get hospitalized because he wouldn't train him, and it goes to the point where now he's trying to recover. Rock tried to visit him. He shunned him away. And now he's trying to find out who he is. And if this rematch is going to take place, otherwise he looks like a coward,
Right. So he has to.
They're calling him out now.
He has to
for
fight
actual
him now.
title match.
Yeah, he has to fight him. And then the second cheese slice of the film that shows up is when Rocky agrees to train him. after he gets his ass pummeled and takes him to an undisclosed location in the middle of the desert where somehow there's a ring, a shack, and a group of people boxing. And they mimicked the scene from Rocky 3 where Creed takes him to an underground place that he trained in where everybody's hungry, basically, is what the theme of it was. And then everybody...
it's also like, it's raw like Rocky 4 too. He's training in extreme conditions for a fight for a guy who's basically being bred as a machine, just like Drago was, like it's a machine. So the parallels are being shown of these guys fighting and their different training styles,
right?
You know, and what it takes trying to get him.
They bring him into the desert and everything's like unorthodox training, you know, like here's a hammer and smash the ground, and we're gonna box. We're gonna use tires hanging from a rope for a punching bag and everything.
Yeah, and by this time, this might be anywhere in the Southwest, because Creed has taken his wife or his fiance, who, you know, he proposes to, and they have a baby on the way, which is revealed when they visit his mom. So he's living on the West Coast. So, you know, basically he moves to the West Coast. It's basically he becomes as far away as he can from Rocky in Philadelphia, and now he really is, you know, reconnecting with the Hollywood, you know, Creed and stuff. Gets Duke as his trainer, loses, and then now Rox comes to him to kind of in that part of the country, you know, the train. I don't know if it was on the border or like Gooey joked about, and somewhere in the desert, you know,
somewhere in Yuma,
to try to get back. Yuma somewhere.
They're in Yuma somewhere,
Southwest somewhere.
They're boxing in an underground illegal location in Yuma.
But the fight's supposed to take place. Somehow they dictate the rules now, and the first fight was in Vegas. Now they're only going to fight him if it's in Russia, which I agree with you.
Rocky 4. Rocky 4, cheese slice number 3. We're going to fight in Russia.
And that's where I think they start to humanize a little bit the son, Victor Drago, because basically his dad, you know, they're sitting at a table with like the Russian consulate or whatever, and that's where the first cameo is revealed. The surprise is that Bridget Nielsen is either she's married into it or she's a big part of it, and she's still alive, and you know, so basically it's like he's trying to get his country back, and you know, and he's gonna be the new Victor is gonna be the new face of, you know, and bring back prestige to Russian boxing. I don't know if they ever had it, but
he's going to get him back. He's going to get him back in the country. That's what he's doing. He's going to get his dad, everybody back in the country, and he's going to get his reputation back because his son's going to come back and fight.
But his son, showing some humanity, says, "These people, where were these people when we were struggling? You know, they don't care about us. You know." So you start to see little, you know, signs of humanity between these two, where otherwise they're not just monsters. You know, it's the familiar Ivan, and this new Victor is the monster. So you start to see a little humanity, and you start to see that relationship, you know, between the father and son, like you've seen, you know, being the prevalent theme of this movie, with Creed becoming a father, with like Rocky, like his surrogate father, and you know, obviously the looming legend of his father Apollo, and a lot of that stuff, and even Rocky's own relationship with his son, which has been strained, and we'll get to that as well near the end of this film. So that's been a theme throughout this film, is the fatherhood theme. So you start to see this going into this fight, you know, and you know, when Rock trains him, you know, he's fighting for his legacy, yes, but it's about him, and not trying to live up to this impossible thing he can't, you know, live up to, but trying to actually just, you know, still win this fight for him and still kind of avenge that Creed name. So it's that's how we enter, I guess, the final, you know, I say part of this film, which is the big fight, the big rematch.
Which, you know, going into this film, you know exactly how this film's gonna play out, and like you said, there's other parts of the characters, like when he goes and sees his mom, which is played by Mrs. Huxtable, which I couldn't get that out of my head the whole time either. It was Mrs. Huxtable.
Yeah, she was a recast, just like, I mean, his son was who was the